State of Kuwait. Welcome to the 7 o'clock news for Friday, the 2nd of January 2015. I am Dalia Badran with the headlines for tonight. Fighting continues in the border town of Kobani as the year 2015-14 becomes the deadliest year yet in Syria's conflict. Al-Shabaab militants attack a military base in Somalia, killing at least 7 Somali soldiers. Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif hosts an all-party conference on how to tackle militancy in the country. Italian authorities take control of a ship carrying 450 migrants that was abandoned by its crew off the coast of Italy. Hello and welcome. Tension has mounted in Jerusalem and in the rest of the occupied West Bank as Israeli forces launched a major escalation of operations, detentions, and home raids today in several parts of Ramallah. More with Majd al-Wahidi.
Israeli forces arrested 2 Palestinian men after they invaded Ramallah at early morning. The occupation forces blew part of an old house in Al-Masyoun neighborhood. According to witnesses, serious clashes took place during the incursion. The soldiers used tear gas and sound bombs. No injuries were reported.
The extremist Israeli government wants to send a message to the Palestinian people that it will not stop its actions and violations against the innocent Palestinians. We expect more violence and violation as long as the international community is silent and doesn't intervene to stop Israel's daily crimes.
Meanwhile, in central West Bank, locals say that Jewish settlers have uprooted more than 5,000 olive tree saplings in agricultural lands on Thursday. The saplings had been planted in honor of slain Palestinian official Ziad Abu Ain, who died after being beaten by an Israeli soldier during a peaceful march. Since then, settlers have carried out several attacks in order to force farmers to leave the land, leaving it open to settlement reconstruction.
Turmusaya is under the control of Jewish settlers. They practice several violations, including uprooting olive trees and attacking people on a daily basis. After Ziad Abu Ain was killed by them, they continue to come and damage the place. What we are witnessing is clear operations of Judaization and annexation of Palestinian lands. Israel opposes the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. There is no reaction to Israeli settlements except resistance. The Popular Resistance Committee is doing its best to face Israeli actions and sue war crimes cases against them in the International Criminal Court.
The International Criminal Court is a possible option for Palestinians to sue files against Israel and its violations. However, the date for approving the Palestinian request to join the International Court remains unknown. A new year has come, yet Palestinians continue to live under occupation, daily arrests, and land confiscation. With no clear, lasting peace deal between Israelis and Palestinians, it seems that 2015 will carry more violence and bloodshed. Majd al-Wahidi, Kuwait TV, Palestine.
Thank you, Majd. A series of large explosions rang out in Kobani today amid ongoing clashes between the so-called Islamic State group militants and Kurdish fighters. Several huge explosions as well as gunfire were reported today on the Turkish-Syrian border. In other news, activists said the year 2014 was the deadliest year yet in Syria's 4-year conflict, with over 76,000 killed. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said 17,790 of the dead were civilians, including 3,501 children. Meanwhile, U.S.-led airstrikes continued on Thursday with 17 against IS targets near the Syrian cities of Raqqa, Kobani, and Deir el-Zur, and 12 near the Iraqi cities of Fallujah, Mosul, and Sinjar. The United Nations said violence in Iraq killed at least 12,282 civilians in 2014, making it the deadliest year since the bloodshed of 2006 and 2007. The majority of the deaths, nearly 8,500, occurred during the second half of the year following the expansion of the IS insurgency in June out of Anbar province, leading to widespread clashes with security forces. The IS fighters still control roughly a third of Iraq. The army and other militia continue to battle the insurgents. The figures show that violence has not abated since 2013, when 7,818 civilians were killed. The bloodshed remains below the level seen in 2006 and 2007, when killings reached their peak. Somalia's Al-Shabaab militants attacked a military base in the outskirts of the town of Baydawa today, killing at least 7 Somali soldiers. The attack came 2 days after the United States said it had killed the chief of Al-Shabaab's intelligence and security wing, Tahlil Abdel Shakur. Military officials said Somali soldiers killed 3 Al-Shabaab insurgents during the attack. A spokesman for Al-Qaeda linked to Al-Shabaab said the group had briefly seized the base and killed more than 10 soldiers. Kenya's High Court today suspended some sections of the controversial new security law, which was enacted 2 weeks ago amid fierce opposition. The court blocked 8 clauses until a legal challenge mounted by the opposition and rights groups is heard. MPs were involved in physical fighting while debating the law, which the opposition said would turn Kenya into a police state. The government says the measures are necessary following a wave of attacks by Somali-based militants. Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif chaired an all-party conference with top army officials and politicians in Islamabad today on how to tackle militancy in the country. The meeting focused on reviewing security in Pakistan and the results of the National Action Plan, which was drafted in the wake of the Peshawar school attack last month. They also discussed the formation of special courts to bring militant cases to trial promptly. It was the 3rd such meeting in 2 weeks. According to sources, the Pakistan People's Party is expected to extend its support for the formation of special military courts, but will not support moves to amend the constitution for this purpose. The Indian government said today that a Pakistani fishing boat laden with explosives bound for India blew up, killing all 4 people on board after the Indian Coast Guard tried to stop and search it. Indian intelligence said the crew planned an illicit transaction when the boat was intercepted. A spokesman for the Indian Coast Guard declined to comment when asked whether the explosives believed to be on board the fishing boat, which sank, were intended for use in possible attacks. India's vulnerability to militant attacks along its long coastline was exposed in 2008 after the sea-borne assault by Pakistani gunmen on Mumbai, the nation's financial capital. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov have discussed the situation in Ukraine and the various crises in the Middle East. A State Department official said Kerry and Lavrov spoke by phone and talked about the Palestinian-Israeli crisis, the civil war in Syria, the situation in eastern Ukraine, and various bilateral issues. The Russian Foreign Ministry said the phone call was initiated by Kerry. Lavrov said in late December that a new U.S. sanctions law against Russia could undermine Moscow-Washington relations. Search for the AirAsia flight, which crashed into the sea on Sunday, has moved underwater with the arrival of specialist equipment. A French crash investigation team is using sensitive detection devices to try to locate the plane and its black box flight recorders. The Airbus A320 was flying from Surabaya in Indonesia to Singapore with 162 people on board when it vanished. No survivors have been found and the cause of the crash remains unknown. Several more bodies were located today, bringing the total found to 22. 4 people have been identified so far. Italian authorities today took control of a ship with 450 migrants that was abandoned by its crew off Italy's coast. The Italian Coast Guard said it was now being towed to an Italian port after a rescue team managed to board. The Azadine, sailing under the flag of Sierra Leone, lost power in rough seas overnight off the southeast of Italy. Almost 1,000 migrants were rescued from another ship found abandoned without any crew earlier in the week. The Italian Coast Guard said the vessel was being towed by an Icelandic ship that is part of the EU border control mission. Fires raged in 2 Australian states today as temperatures soared above 40 degrees Celsius. According to the Victorian Country Fire Authority, or the CFA, a grass fire near Moyston in Victoria burnt around 20 square kilometers with a 35-kilometer perimeter. The CFA said there were no reports of any lives or homes lost in the fire so far. Other smaller fires have broken out across the state of Victoria, but none is threatening to life or property at this stage. In the state of South Australia, 2 fires were burning out of control, one northeast of Adelaide and the other in the lower southeast of the state. In Kuwait, Kuwait Science Club recently hosted the internationally renowned inventor of the digital camera, Stephen Sasson, who was honored for his innovative device which he created in 1975. Sasson's invention had many applications, with the digital camera being used for education, surgery, space exploration, and many more. Hiba Abdurrahman has more details in the following report.
For the first time, the inventor of the digital camera, Stephen Sasson, visited Kuwait to receive historical honoring by His Highness the Emir Sheikh Subah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Subah, after receiving the Medal of Informatics, which is the highest award given by the direction of His Highness Sheikh Salim Al Hali Al Subah Informatics Award. On the sideline of this visit, the inventor was hosted by Kuwait Science Club that organized a discussion panel discussing the innovation and developments that he had added to his invention.
It was a wonderful ceremony, very, very impressive. I was very honored to receive this award, but that ceremony even made it more of an honor to be in such a beautiful place with the Emir and all the high heads of state. It was just the greatest honor. I'm thrilled. Both my wife, Cindy, and I are forever grateful to the people of Kuwait for that great honor. Well, the first digital camera was just an experiment that I did in 1975 to see if I could do it. And it turns out we were able to build it and to demonstrate the first digital photographic system. You know, it was a whole system, not just the camera, but the playback system as well. And we didn't have personal computers back then, and we didn't have a lot of the things we take for granted now. So it was just an experiment to see. I called it filmless photography. That's what I called it back then. And I didn't even call it a digital camera, even though it was all digital. I called it an electronic camera because digital had a bad reputation back then, you know. And I didn't want to confuse the issue with the technology. And so I called it all electronic camera. And we filed for our first patent and was granted the first digital camera patent in 1978. And so it was a great fun project. I really enjoyed it.
Sasson said that he started the work in 1975, dismantling and assembling using electronic devices and chips, seeking to transform the picture into a storable digital shape. In December that year, he succeeded in taking the first digital photo with a prototype camera he had personally assembled. The success nudged him to seek other photographing inventions. His invention has paved the way for a variety of creations in electronic and smart realms. The digital camera helped in revolutionizing modern technology from smartphones to laptops, along with other devices. Honoring Stephen Sasson came in line with a policy designed to encourage creativity and motivate Arab and foreign inventors of record creative works, according to the national strategy that aims at encouraging and enhancing innovators, promoting them in the Arab world, and shedding light on latest technologies in general. With this informative discussion panel, the man behind the digital cameras, or Mr. Stephen Sasson, continues his tours in Kuwait after the historical honoring that he received from His Highness the Emir Sheikh Subah Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Subah for his invention. From Kuwait Science Club, I am Heba Abdurrahman reporting for English News.
Thank you, Heba. This is the end of tonight's news. A reminder of the headlines. Fighting continues in the border town of Kobani as the year 2014 becomes the deadliest year yet in serious conflict. Al-Shabaab militants attack a military base in Somalia, killing at least 7 Somali soldiers. Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif hosts an all-party conference on how to tackle militancy in the country. Italian authorities take control of a ship carrying 450 migrants that was abandoned by its crew off the coast of Italy.